Yeah.
If you want to do it.
I'm about to start working, but I'll be off
leave
it.
us up then.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Nick? All right.
Not much.
Let's see who else
Okay.
liked the
Yeah, you're the only one who you're the only waiting right now. Or, I mean, I know Noah's going to be a little late.
yeah. I don't see. Yeah, I was just saying who
Yeah.
who else liked your post. Looks like David liked your post, but then
And then Kiernan and
let's see who
that's
else
it.
liked it.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe Kieran. So Noah's definitely coming.
Maybe Kiernan. Yeah, I don't mind redoing this another time if if we want to find someone. Oh, Lulu's here.
All right, cool. Yeah. Oof, man, it's cold here. Hey, what's up, Lulu?
He hasn't connected to audio yet.
Nope. Hey, Lulu.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
All right.
Doing pretty good.
We should have Noah should be coming in a bit, but he's just he has a quick other appointment, then he should be jumping in.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Is there any software that I'm supposed to download?
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have been more clear on that. Roblox Studio. You can just search Roblox and then it should be like the first download link. Let me go ahead and find a link, but
I see.
yeah, sorry about that. I should have put that in.
No worries.
But yeah, if you go to the roblox.com/create, then click the start creating button. Yeah, I was just confirming that, but I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, so this should give you Roblox Studio.
Roblox.
So yeah, let me know when you have that installed. Then you can just open it up right away. And here, let me go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, I found out some interesting things with So Nick, I just bought the Mac Mini M1. Just because I mean, I've been reading so many good things about the M1, but especially for like battery life stuff. But then yeah, I was actually trying to install Roblox Studio on there. For some reason, it didn't do it. I didn't go into detail about like why
Really?
it didn't download,
Huh.
but that was interesting.
Yeah, Roblox Studio has been a little messed up recently for Macs. Ooh, I don't know what you're on, but it should work, at least a little bit. But for some students I've had, it's been kind of laggy since the most recent Mac OS update, which was what was it, like a month and a half ago or something.
Yeah.
So it's always been kind of a little behind on Macs, but it usually works. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that's weird. I don't know anything about you said the Mac Mini M, is that what you called it?
Yeah, so it's just that basically that M1 chip. I don't know if you heard about this too, Lulu, but it's Mac's proprietary chip.
Mhm.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, it's super fast and stuff, but of course, like you have to for like other software, you have to go through this one, I think, interpreter called Rosetta. But then basically, like, it's with all these things trying to transition over, there'll probably be some incompatibility over the next couple of months. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting issue. But that's why I'm working off of my old school MacBook Pro. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I got the new iPad Air, so I have the chip in my iPad.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But I use a Windows computer.
Yeah, totally.
Do you know if like the account for Roblox Studio is the same as the one for like Roblox?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why the pop-up is like not showing anything. Maybe I'll just
Okay, like do you have a login screen at all and it just doesn't do anything, or
I have the login screen, and then here
yeah. All right, let's see
when I
if
click like login, there's a
Uh-huh.
CAPTCHA that's supposed to appear.
Yeah, I've heard of that happening too. I don't know what you should do. Try can you log into Roblox? Are you logged into Roblox.com? Because I think if you go to Roblox.com and hit start creating, I think it might sign you in to Roblox Studio through there.
Okay.
There is a way to do that. I think that's all you need to do. It might be a little more complex than that. But yeah, I think if you just hit start creating, then it'll use whatever you're signed in on the browser.
Where should I find is it create?
Yeah, it's the same button you use to download it. It checks to see if it can open Roblox Studio. If it can't, it gives you the download link instead. But if you just click it and you have Roblox Studio already installed, then it should just open it, hopefully with the credentials, for your account.
Yeah. Okay. It worked.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so you should have something like what I have here.
Yep.
You probably, I have night mode on, but besides that, it should look the same. We're just gonna go ahead and click the very basic base plate. If you want to, get ideas for, teaching your students, you can check out the other templates and stuff to see what you start with. I personally don't like to use the templates because a lot of them have been, they were created a long time ago. So the code is kind of, not really very up to date and they're a little buggy. But, so right now I have this, little base plate here. And let's do a quick little tour of Roblox Studio. So obviously there's the play button up at the top. That you can probably guess what that does. It actually starts your game, which right now is just a base plate. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah. So my character spawns in. It spawns into the center unless I add a spawn location. And I can just
Is
go
that
ahead
is
and
would that be
run around.
considered like 0, 0, 0?
Yes, yes. I think actually you might be able to see let's see if I look at my humanoid root part and find, yeah, so my position here, I ran around a bit, but you can see they're all pretty low numbers.
Yeah.
14, 3, -2. And no, it doesn't really change on the fly. I think I have to like reselect, yeah, and it changed as I moved, but yeah. So yeah, I can run around and stuff. And so let's talk about how we actually build things. Well, so on the right-hand side, so Lulu, you went to Emily's Unity workshops, didn't you? Or no?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So, the hierarchy is pretty similar. You're going to find a lot of similarities between Roblox Studio and Unity. So, over here you have the game hierarchy. There's a bunch of extra stuff that isn't usually visible in Unity, but, the equivalent of the actual game world is here in the workspace. So we got this camera that we're not going to mess with. And then same with terrain, we're not going to mess with any of these things that already exist. But if I want to add something to the workspace, I can click the plus here, and then there's a bunch of different options here. I'm going to go ahead and add a part. And it appears where my camera is looking. Unfortunately, in my case, it spawned really far away. That's okay. I can just click and drag it over. And then I can navigate the world using the arrow keys to move around. You can change the way the camera is looking by holding right click and then just kind of drag it where you want to go. A lot of kids don't have mice. They use the trackpad, and I don't know the best way to do it on there. So what I tell them to do is use this little cube here. You can click on different faces and it'll orient you in the direction you clicked. So you can use that to change the direction of the camera. I'm not sure how else to do it.
Yeah.
It's a little awkward, but you get used to it.
Right, totally.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's a bunch of other, there's a lot of other stuff you can do. I was gonna, try to avoid repeating stuff in Noah's workshop, but it's not, there's not really too many people here, so I don't think it's as important. So,
yeah. No, you do you, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we can just go ahead and continue with the scheduled programming. So what I wanted to do is make a projectile using using some part. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this part. I don't really care about this one. I'm going to make a sphere instead. So I'm going to click the same part. Oh yeah, so last time I added it using this plus here, but there's a little shortcut here. I can just click part up at the top inside either the home or the model tab. The home, the home tab is just a bunch of the most common stuff from all the other tabs. So you could do either one, but I like to stay on home. I'm going to click on the part and I'm going to add a sphere. And again, it places it kind of far away. I just drag it this way. It won't really matter where we spawn this because we're actually not going to keep it in the workspace. We're going to make clones of it in a bit. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and see like, okay, what do I want to actually throw out? Well, I'll use the scale tool to make it a little smaller. And then if I want to change the way it looks, I can click on it in the Explorer or click on it in the actual workspace. Either way, we'll select it. But then it'll open up this properties section down here. Now your layout may look a little different than mine, Lulu. You may not even have these windows open. I think they are open by default, but if as far as controlling what windows you see, you can look at this view tab up at the top. And then these are all the windows that you can turn on or off. Pretty much the only ones I ever have open are Explorer, Properties, and Output, except in rare cases. You don't really use any of the others.
Quick question, Nick. How do you get that view cube out onto the canvas? So I can, because I have a trackpad and I'm like, I can't do it. Yeah. How do you pop that out?
Well, so it's up here by default, but you can just kind of drag it where you want to go. Is it not up in the top right corner for you?
Yeah, it's just like my ID name for some reason.
Can you share your screen?
Let's see. Yeah. There it goes.
Oh yeah, so you're playing right now. Sorry. So yeah, any changes so just like Unity, if you make any changes while you're playing, they're not going to stick. So make sure that I should have been more clear on that. Yeah, you got to hit the stop button up at the top to leave the game. And yeah, now
Got
you're in the, classic editing mode. So you can actually change the way your game
Okay.
works and all that stuff.
Right.
Good question. Thanks for
Okay.
catching that.
I will throw plenty of noob questions at you.
No, that's good. That's good. I want to hear that. I want you guys to ask questions because I plan having a lot of stuff here, so I'm going pretty fast. So I want you guys to slow me down if you have any questions. That's really the
Okay.
way this works. And if we don't get everything
Cool,
done, that's
cool.
totally fine. It's more important that you guys get it all. So
I might cry halfway through. No, I'm kidding.
that's
Maybe
expected. That
halfway.
always happens in my Roblox lessons. Let me tell you, they're brutal.
Yeah, actually, I'm curious. Yeah, has a student been like have they actually cried over their Roblox code or?
I don't think
Like,
so,
have you
actually.
had
I don't
that?
think I've ever had a kid cry over. Well, in camps I have. I've had kids like
Yeah.
cry because they're not getting it.
Totally.
Not like sobbing, but you can tell they're tearing
Yeah.
up because it's they feel like they're falling behind.
I
And they're
think
usually not
Right.
also, they're just super hard on themselves. But yeah.
I mean, during
not
Among Us, like,
individually, no.
Yeah, you know that Among Us thing we had like last
Yeah,
last
I heard
Friday, but like
I heard someone got sold out by his teammate.
well that was one case, and then in my room, I think so one kid, I won't name names, but just started crying because like they first they got disconnected, then they lost, and it was really scary because he was muted and
Yeah.
crying. It was really bizarre and it was hard because you can't pat him on the shoulder, but
That's
Oh,
too
it
bad.
happened, Lulu. Yeah, it happened. But sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, so you guys have any other questions about what we've done so far?
no.
Okay.
Let me pop out. Okay, I got the cube. All right.
All right, cool. So one other thing you're gonna I want to point out is this anchor section here. Since we're making a projectile, we don't want it to be anchored. The anchor just means that it can't move. If it's anchored, it can't move. And that's helpful if you're making things like platforms or anything that you don't want to move. Because otherwise you can, if I well, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna unanchor it, and then I'm going to click the arrow underneath play and click play here because I wasn't really keeping track of where I keep my camera. Maybe I'm far away from the center, and sometimes you end up in the center and have to run really far. So I'm just gonna do play here, which will play where the camera is. So right now it's unanchored. So if I run up to it, oops. See, it kind of rolls around as I kick it. My character hasn't loaded in yet, but yeah. It's kind of okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that's and that's what we want for our projectile. We don't want, well, there's obviously more we're going to do to make it actually move, but if it's anchored, it wouldn't be able to move at all. So as far as its properties go, I'm going to change the way it looks. So actually, what I want to do is I'm going to make it completely invisible. So I'm going to change the transparency
Lulu,
to 1.
Lulu, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, it looks like your part has like a shadow. Is it like is it not on the ground? Or is it on the ground?
Well, so it was I did lift it up. Yeah, so that it was up here, but if I move it down, then so you can tell if it's on the ground because it has that little red thing. Now it's like welded to the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was kind of making it float up in the air, but if I actually press play again, it would fall because it's unanchored and it's affected by gravity. So all that stuff with like the colliders that we did in Unity, that's all just already there. It assumes you want it to be a part of the physics system until you tell it otherwise. And that's pretty much exactly what we're gonna do. So for now, as far as changing the way it looks, so I can change a bunch of stuff here. I can change its color. I can make it red. It's a scary red projectile. And I can change its material to look like something like like glass or granite or whatever. You can play around with these properties.
Okay. Right.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the model tab. And with my part selected, I'm going to click on effects and add fire.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it has this fire just built in. So yeah, you can get that in the model tab. There's a bunch of effects. I honestly, most of them are kind of weird and complicated, but fire is pretty straightforward. It just sits there and it is fire. I guess smoke is also similar, where it's just kind of, well, you can't see it because it's blocked by the fire. Or it's actually inside the fire. Wait, does that work? I think I need to put it in the part. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, smoke. These just kind of emit stuff. I don't want the smoke though. And in fact, I'm actually not even going to have the projectile be visible because I just want it to look like a fireball. So I'm going to actually make this transparency 1, so that it's just, when I throw it, it's going to be just throwing fire. Though all the code we're doing and controlling will actually be that invisible part there. The fire is just purely a visual effect. You guys can make it look like how mine looks, or you can do your own thing. It doesn't really matter how your projectile looks. It could be it could be a cube or a wedge or something. That's totally fine. You have any questions about this? No. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm wondering if I'm getting a little ahead of my no. So I'm going to go ahead and put it inside replicated storage. So I'm going to drag it from the workspace into replicated storage. So it went away. You don't see it, but it still has this indicator here, right? And I actually can move it still, even though we don't see it, which is a little bit weird. But basically, we moved it out of workspace, so it does not exist in the workspace. If I play the game, it's not going to be there. And instead,
so
it's in
why would you do that? Why would you is it like hiding a costume or something like that, or? Yeah,
exactly. So I want the game to know about my projectile because I'm going to be spawning a bunch of projectiles, but I don't want to just have one sitting somewhere in the world, right?
Oh, right.
So I put it into storage. There's 2 types of storage. There's replicated storage, which means that when the game loads, Roblox sends all the data for everything in replicated storage on load. But I can also put it in server storage where it won't get sent to the client until it actually needs to be spawned into the game. In general, you're going to want to put it in replicated storage. It's usually going to be better to load it all when the game loads rather than try loading it as the game gets played. But not always. For if you're having like huge levels or something like that, you may want to just send it a little bit at a time to save data and stuff. We're not really going to get into that. That's not really too important for what we're doing. So for now, just put everything in replicated storage. Hey Noah, how you doing?
Hey, doing
Hey,
good.
what's up, Noah?
Hey.
So yeah, Noah, to get you caught up, all we did was so far is create a part. Oh wait, where'd it go? Oh wait, no. Where is my part? I can also click on it and press F to find it. I don't know where it went, but here it is now.
Cool.
So yeah, so I lost my part, so I clicked on it and pressed F, and that will take you to the part from wherever, and it'll take you to anything. But yeah, so we have this part. Doesn't really matter what it looks like. We're going to turn it into a projectile. I made mine invisible and added fire to it, but yours can look however you want. And then we put it inside replicated storage.
Part.
So you got that, Noah?
Almost. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna do what you did to it, just so I can copy it. So you made it. So you set the transparency to 1.
Yeah, transparency to 1, and I added fire to it from the effects section.
You added fire from the effects, and then you put it in replicated storage.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm also going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call it Fireball. Okay, you could call it anything. You could leave it called part. The problem with that is, as you add more parts and they're all called part, it gets really confusing and, maybe even impossible for your code to distinguish between the individual items. So now that I have my Fireball, I want to spawn it into the workspace. So let's go ahead and do that. I think the best way to do this, let's go ahead and put a script inside. Let's go ahead and put a script inside server script service that will allow us to bring the projectile into the workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and add a script. And by clicking on plus in the server script service and adding a script.
Can I ask a question? So I've used server storage and cloned from server storage with Roblox.
Yeah.
When would you use replicated storage versus server storage?
Yeah, so I was actually just talking about that. So replicated storage sends the data to the client when the game loads, and server storage doesn't send the data to the client until it needs it, right? So if it's something like this for the projectile, you'd want it in replicated storage because you're going to be spawning many projectiles, and you don't want you don't want it to have to send the data and load it in again every single time it spawns, which is what's going to happen because only the server knows what the projectile is.
Oh, and that's why it's called replicated storage.
Yeah, because it's replicated between the server and the client. They both have the information. And so I almost always use replicated storage. I haven't come across a game big enough to really matter unless the client never uses it at all, which happens sometimes. They just put it in server storage. But you could use something like multiple levels, right? You don't need to have multiple levels. You don't need to send the entire game to the client when the game loads. You only need to send that level. So you could send those a bit at a time. So yeah, it's really just has to do with performance and data usage. So yeah, like your kids probably aren't going to care as much about that, but if you were developing your own game, that would be a factor because you don't want to use too much data or computational power. All right, so I went ahead and added my script to server script service. I'm going to go ahead and rename it as well. I'm going to call it, I don't know. Well, I'm going to call it event script. Well, you'll see why I called it that in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do the event script. Does anyone have any questions about this so far? So you have a script inside server script service. All right. So let's go ahead and make a function that can spawn in a projectile. So I'm going to go ahead and just write it. Well, I'm going to say local function. This local is optional, but this is how you make a function. You just say function.
Yep.
And then we go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to go ahead and say spawn projectile. I'll call it spawn fireball to be. No, I don't know how far we're going to get if we're going to do multiple projectiles or not. So I'll just call it spawn projectile. And we have to consider the information that the function is going to need in order to spawn the projectile. So it's going to need what player is shooting the projectile, and it's going to need to know what they're targeting, the location they're trying to send the projectile to, which is I'm thinking it should be the mouse, wherever the mouse is. But we'll get that from somewhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and call it target. Target posts. Yeah, so player and target position. And I'm going to go ahead and press enter. So now let's go ahead and get started on actually shooting this projectile. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is find the fireball in replicated storage so I can clone it and put it inside the workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and say local clone equals game.replicatedStorage.fireball. So Unity follows like this tree hierarchy in the Explorer. Or sorry, not Unity, Roblox Studio. Roblox Studio follows this tree hierarchy in the Explorer. So when you want to get something, there's two ways to get it. You can either start from the top, start from game, and then work your way down, like so go into like the workspace and then terrain, or in this case, replicated storage and fireball. And if we want to go even further, we could say .fire and so on and so forth. You could also start from the script that we're in. So I could say script.parent in this case, and I would go up to the server script service. That's not really useful here, but those are the two ways to do it. You either start from the top with game or start from the bottom in the script you're in. And this part is helpful if you can put scripts inside objects and have them control the object. And it's way easier than having a bunch of scripts in server script service that I'll try to do that. Yeah. So, so yeah, clone equals game.replicatedStorage.fireball and then colon clone. So the way Lua works is it uses the dots for everything besides methods, everything besides functions, but it uses a colon when you're calling a function. I don't really know why. I'm sure they have some reason for it, but it is what it is. So yeah, so what I'm doing is I find the fireball and I call the clone function within the fireball. That obviously is going to return a clone that I put inside this clone variable. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Yep.
And has everyone been able to get this down? All right. Cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and move that clone into the workspace. I'm going to say clone.parent equals, I could say game.workspace, but they also have a shortcut here where I can just say workspace. It's the same thing. So this goes in the workspace, and now if I call this function, it will actually create a projectile in the workspace. I'm going to go ahead and just do this. Actually, you don't copy this part down, but I'm going to say while true, do wait for 1 second, and then I'm going to say spawn projectile. I don't do anything with the parent or the target position yet, so I'm just going to say nil nil. And then I'm going to say play here. Oh, I hope I'm looking at it. Just to prove that it does, create the fireball and put it in the workspace. Yeah, and you can see they're all spawning in this spot, and they spawn in the location that it is in the in replicated storage. Like if I look inside the properties of the fireball and replicated storage, it has a position, and that's where this spawns. They're spawning at 1565.
Cool.
So yeah, they keep the exact same properties. They're exactly the same. They just then go into the workspace. So I'm not going to do that though. We want it to happen when a player, yeah, we want it to, go to the player and go to the target position. So this is where things get a little weirder. If I want the fireball to, go in a certain direction, maintain a certain velocity, Roblox has a pretty good built-in physics system to handle that. So I'm going to go to my original fireball and replicated storage, and I'm going to add a body velocity. So a part with a body velocity in it, and there's a bunch of the, there's body position and body force and all that. The point is, it wants to be going at whatever velocity I set in here, and it's going to apply a force to get to that point. So I'm going to go down here and say, okay, my starting velocity is just going to be 0, 0, 0. So that there's going to be like lag between the server and the client. I don't want it to be going in weird, floating up in the meantime. So I'll just set it to 0. It won't go anywhere until our code tells it to. So yeah, so it's starting velocity is going to be 0, 0, 0. I'm also going to change the max force inside the body velocity to be bigger. Just because in my experience, the default 4,000 it's not very big actually. And you can kind of push it around when you're not supposed to. This is kind of just supposed to stay, it's supposed to maintain that speed basically no matter what, right? So yeah, so I have this body velocity, and so I want my code to figure out what the velocity it needs to be going in is, and set this body velocity value to that value. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to calculate that velocity. I'm going to say local velocity equals. So if I want to figure out how to get from the target position, from the player to the target position, I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to have to get the target position, which is nice and easy. That's just inside that variable there. And then I'm going to need to get the humanoid root part of the player, or some part of the player to spawn from. So another note about Roblox is if I press play, there's basically two things that are relevant to me, the player. There's obviously the physical me, that's this character inside the workspace, right? So here inside the workspace, there's this character, TCS Berkeley. That's like the physical model. And then there's also in the players section, this object, TCS Berkeley, that has a bunch of, different settings and, keeps track of the account and all that. We're not really going to get into that for now, but it's kind of like a more abstract, this is the player, right? This represents the whole player rather than the physical model representing the player inside the workspace. And the reason I bring that up is because we're going to get the player as an argument, and you'll see why I chose these arguments in a second. But I need the character. So I can just say, all right, so target position minus player dot character dot humanoid root part dot position. Does everyone remember like, you know, physics and how like subtracting vectors works and all that? No.
I totally forgot.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but basically, if I subtract so you know, both of these are going to be vector 3, so they contain an x value, a y value, and a z value, right? They're, you know, these are the positions that you see just everywhere else. So like the base plate has, well, it's just one, but yeah, these are vector 3s that contain the x, y, and z. And if you subtract these, you're going to get the distance between them. So this tells you the distance between the target position in the x direction and the y direction and the z direction, and the humanoid root parts position. So this gives you a distance, which means that if we plug this into the velocity, it'll just go that distance every second. Does that make sense? And it maintains the direction as well. However, the problem with this, just doing it this way, is that if I make my target really far, then it's going to go super fast, right? If I make it super close, it's going to go super slow, right? And that's not really how it should work. The fireball should have a constant speed, or different fireballs should go the same speed. So I'm going to go ahead and put this inside parentheses and say dot unit to make this the unit vector version, which just basically means it makes it 1, right? So if it's really far and the distance is like 10,000, saying dot unit will have the same direction, but only be 1 long. And then if it's shorter, it'll also go to 1. Does that make sense? All right. So
does that mean like if you had the x, y, and z, sorry. Does that mean if you add the x, y, and z, it'll all equal 1, or is that?
No, if you use the Pythagorean theorem, it'll equal 1. So if you do x squared plus y squared plus z squared, that'll equal 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's the same thing. Like if you're going in some random direction at and at 5 studs, that's the unit in here, studs per second, that'll be the same thing. The x, y, and z all squared will add up to 25 because that's 5 squared.
So, okay, so the total speed will be 1.
Yes. So ultimately, what this does is it makes the total speed 1 in whatever direction it's supposed to go in. So here, let me go ahead and why don't we go ahead and actually just create this this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and again just have it spawn weight 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and say spawn projectile. And this time I need to give it a player. Oh, that's just ignore this. We're not going to get into this, but I'm just going to give it the first player, right? So get children bracket 1. Lua indexes from 1. That's worth noting. It doesn't start from 0. It starts from 1. But yeah, so I give it the first player, and the target position is just, I don't know, 0, 0, 0. Whoops. All right. Hopefully this works. Oh wait, I never actually did anything with the velocity. It's just a random velocity variable. Let's move it before I also didn't work this. Oh, okay, yeah. This also started too early. There were a bunch of things wrong with this. You can just take me at my word. We'll see it in action in a little bit. That this will go at 1 stud per second. I think that's the unit they use. I don't actually know the unit they use, but it'll go at 1 of whatever unit they use. If we actually apply it to the velocity inside the fireball. So I have this variable velocity, but that doesn't actually mean anything, right? What I need to do is put it inside the body velocity in here. So I can say clone dot body velocity. And then what are the properties in here that are relevant? Well, okay, I want to mess with this velocity property. So I'm going to go ahead and so clone.bodyVelocity.velocity equals velocity. Starting to not feel like a real word anymore, but okay. So now if I actually spawn a projectile, it will go at that speed. So the issue now is actually making it spawn those projectiles. When do we actually call this function? Well, we want to do it when they like click or press a button or something. Again, I'll go ahead and make it actually do this. I'm going to say while true do. And the thing is, I got to wait for the player to actually spawn in because the character doesn't exist. So I'm going to have it wait for like 10 seconds beforehand. This is obviously very quick and dirty. There are better ways to do this, but yeah, so what I had before, I'm going to spawn projectile, game.players, get players. That's what I actually should have done, not get children. I don't think that made a difference though. 1 and yeah, go to 0, 0, 0. All right. Oh, and I definitely have to add this wait in here. If you don't wait in your while true loops, it'll crash your game because no other script will be able to run because this will never finish. All right. So let's see if this works here. Where are my projectiles? Okay. Well, they're okay. So, oh yeah, here they are. So yeah, so they're all spawning and they're going to 0, 0, 0. They're spawning, you know, here in the spot where the fireballs are, and they kind of want to go towards 0, 0, 0. And you can see if I actually look at one of the fireballs and look at its body velocity, you know, these numbers are kind of weird, but if you did the math, this would all kind of come out to be 1 stud per second. You can see that they're not really going very fast, right? They're going pretty slow. They're going at what you would kind of expect 1 to be. Does that make sense? All right. But yeah, we don't want to just have this constant, you know, endless stream of fireballs. We want it to spawn it when the player actually puts in an input. So this is where things get a little tricky, if they're not already tricky enough already. I know this is a lot for kind of starting out, but we need to obviously know when the player presses the button, but right now this script is running on the Roblox server. So it doesn't have access to the player's mouse and keyboard. We have no way of knowing from this script right now when they press a button. We need the client to tell it that. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Before we go, I guess I'll go ahead and add a wait for 10 seconds, and then I'm going to destroy the clone. I'm going to say clone : destroy. Just so that, you know, they don't go on forever, right? They wait for 10 seconds and then they disappear. So yeah, if you guys have that, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next part, which is actually reading the player's key presses or mouse clicks or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and now go into starter player. So everything in here is going to be a local script that goes onto the client. So there's 2 folders here, starter player scripts and starter character scripts. The starter character scripts are a part of the player's character, which we saw that's actually in the workspace, which means that every time a player dies and respawns or whatever, every time they respawn, it's going to recreate those scripts and rerun them. So it's only tied to the physical existence of the player, which changes every time they respawn. It creates a new character every time. Whereas the starter player scripts aren't a part of the character, they're a part of the player, so they just get created whenever the player loads into the game and stay for the entire time the player's in the game. And that's what we want to do. We want it to start listening for the projectile being fired whenever, for inside the player script. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the starter player scripts here. And I'm going to add a local script. So local script is exactly what it sounds like. It's a script that only runs on the client. And they will only run if they are part of one of these starter folders. If you put that in the workspace in some part or anything, it's not going to run. It only runs if it's inside one of these starter folders, which are the ones specific to the client. Inside this local script, I'm going to go ahead and here. Let me go ahead and send you guys the documentation, so you guys don't just have to memorize this. But I'm still gonna. You don't have to read this right now, but this describes exactly what we're gonna do. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll basically see. Let me, if I can find my chat. Yeah, so we're going to use the user input service. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that the code is very similar to what we're about to do. In the code samples, there's only one. But anyways, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to need to get the service, local user input service. I could call it anything for this variable, but I'm going to describe it exactly what it is. It was game : get service, user input service as a string. It all completes it for you though. So yeah, now I have the whole service, which gives a bunch of functions related to what the user actually does inside this variable. And I am going to just make a function that runs when they click the mouse key. Function, I'm going to, I'm keeping it pretty close to what they do in the link I sent you, but function on input began. So there's two arguments that we're going to get for the input. One is the actual input object, and then also this variable processed, which tells you if the game has already processed the input. What that means is, like, if you have like a menu open or they're like clicking on the chat or something like that, you don't want it to count as a mouse press, right? So this function will still get called, but this process variable will be true, saying we've already used it. So just so you know, they clicked, but we've already used it for something else. So we don't want to do it in that case, right? We only want to run if this process variable is false. So I'm going to go ahead and say if not processed and input dot user input type equals enum dot user input type dot mouse button 1. So as you guys might know if you've seen similar sort of platforms, the input object has a bunch of stuff in it, including, okay, what was the input, and then it's some value. We could just type whatever value it is in there, but I don't want to memorize all that. So instead we use the enum section and then look inside the user input types and get the variable for mouse button 1. Does that make sense? Everyone following along? I know I'm just kind of talking a lot, so if you have any questions, please stop me. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So mouse button 1, which mouse button does that refer to?
Left key. Left mouse button.
Cool.
Yep. Good question. Yeah, I could also have done this as a key press and then check the key code and all that, but I think for shooting it makes the most sense to be using a mouse button. So yeah, so what do I want to do here? Well, now I want to fire the projectile, right, which is on the server. So this is a local script that does not have access to the one on the server. And the reason why we couldn't make the function in the local script is because if we did, only that player would see the projectile. It would only affect their game, and things can get desynced and weird. So you want to make all changes to the actual world on the server if possible. So I need the client to tell the server, hey, fire this projectile for me. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to use something called a remote event. So I'm going to click on replicated storage and add a remote event. This is just a thing for the client and server to talk to each other. They can send information through this event. And if we're smart about it, we can make the server listen for the information it gets and know what to do in that case. So all we're going to do is we're just going to send the server the information it needs, which is the target, right? And it needs to know where the projectile is supposed to be going. So I'm going to say game.replicated storage. This is going to be kind of a long line. I should probably put it into a variable, but maybe I'll reorganize it in a second. But game.replicated storage.remote event colon fire server. And I need to tell it the information it needs to know. It needs to know the mouse's position. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make some variables here so this doesn't turn into a monstrosity of a lineup. At the beginning, I'm going to say local player equals game.players.local player. This is a variable that only exists in local scripts, and it just refers to the player that is using this computer. Yeah, and then I can say player. It's still going to be really long, but if I mess this up, player : get mouse. dot hit, I think. Yeah. Let me double check that. I'm going to look at the Roblox mouse. It's either hit or target. One of those gives you like the object you're pointing to, and one of those gives you the position. Pretty sure we want hit, which is the position. Yes. Okay. Although one thing, we wrote the event script to take in a position, so we can just say hit dot p, because the hit contains orientation as well. It's a C frame, which is this complicated vector containing both the position and the orientation in like in some format that I don't fully understand. But yeah, this just sends the position, which is just a vector 3. So yeah, so this will send to the server the position. Does that make sense? You know, assuming we give it an input and a process. So now we need to connect this function to the user input service. So I can say user input service dot input began colon connect. No, yes. Why isn't this working? It should be auto completing, but you know, we look at the reference code. Yeah, this is right. I don't know why it didn't auto complete that, but anyways. Oh well, it added these parentheses for me, trying to be helpful. We don't want that because we're just putting the actual function here. So it's going to say, all right, whenever an input happens, call this function, and this event will provide to the function an input object and a variable saying whether it was processed. So that's why I made this function in this way. Does that make sense? And now, as far as this Fire server goes. It's going to send the data to the client, or sorry, send the data to the server. And so we need to make this function run when this event is fired. So I can just say game.replicated-storage.remote event colon, oh no, sorry, dot on server event colon connect spawn projectile. So it'll call the spawn projectile function whenever a client fires the remote event. And it will call it with the arguments provided by the client. So you may notice we only sent one argument in the local script, but we took 2 in here. I only sent the target position when I fired the server, but the first argument is a player, and that's just how it works. You are always going to get the player that sent the request as the first argument. It does that automatically. And so the actual other data, the relevant data that you need, maybe it's nothing, right? Maybe you only use the player and you just know exactly what to do. Maybe you have more arguments. It doesn't matter. You can add as many or as few as you want. You just make your functions, you know, do that and send that information, and it'll work out. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this. I know we put a lot of code in here. I'm going to go ahead and see if this works, and then I'll stop so everyone can catch up. There's one more thing we've yet to do still in order to make this work, but let's try the basics here. Okay, yeah, so every time I do it, it spawns, and it does seem to be going towards my mouse. It's kind of slow. It's hard to tell. But you'll notice it's not actually spawning in my location, right? It's still spawning in the position of the original. So the one last thing to do is to go into the event script and make the projectile actually go to the right spot before it keeps going, right? So I'm going to say, I also want to speed it up too, I guess, but let's say clone dot C frame equals. So again, this keeps track of position and orientation. We're not really going to bother with the orientation. Luckily, the constructor can just take a position if we want. So cframe.new, and basically we want to go to the players. I probably should have set this into a variable. Whatever, that's fine. Player.character, because it's the exact same thing here. Humanoid root part. Position. But we don't want it to do this because then it'll spawn literally inside the player, right? And when we make the projectile deal damage, the player will just hurt themselves. So I am going to add, I'm going to make it go a little bit in the direction it's supposed to go. So I'm going to say velocity. Yeah, just add the velocity to it, and that just moves the position by 1 unit of the velocity. So, yeah, does everybody, so what should I show on my screen right now for you guys to copy things down? And do you have any other questions about what we done?
I'm good.
You're good, Noah? And then Jimmy and Lulu, are you guys good?
I'm good as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, cool.
Taking it all in. Yep.
Yeah, all right. So then one more thing to do is, like I said, they go a little slow. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, I'm just gonna make a constant up here. I'm gonna say local speed equals, I don't know, 20. Just for reference, the characters run at 16, whatever the unit is. I really don't know the unit. I assume it's studs per second. I don't know. But 16 is the default running speed. So if you want to go faster, speed faster, I'm going to make it like 50. It is a fast fireball. And which means that when I calculate the velocity, I'll just multiply that times 50. And now this is going to be, whoops, not times 50. This should be times the variable, times speed. And now this is going to be too far in front. So I'm actually going to say velocity.unit to change it back to being the 1 times, I'm not going to make a variable for this, like 3-ish. We can change this, but to put a certain amount in front of the player, so that doesn't spawn inside. Because I found that 1 is a little too small. Yeah, so let's go ahead and try this out now. If I press play, hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. You guys, please try this out as well. Yeah, so I can shoot fireballs now. Every time I click, it sends a fireball out.
Nice.
And if I didn't do it wrong, they should despawn in 10 seconds.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys all got it working?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So that was a big important thing, but let's actually also make them do damage. So when they hit another player.
Yeah.
So that's something that would probably be easiest to do inside the actual projectile itself. This is what I was talking about putting a script inside a part, rather than trying to control every projectile from the event script, which is doable. Like, it wouldn't be too hard to do that, but it's even easier to put the script inside the fireball itself. So I'm going to go to my remote replicated storage, add a script to the fireball. Go ahead and delete this. And I want something to happen when it touches a part. I want it to check to see if that part is a part of a player. And if it is, damage the player and destroy itself. So I'm going to say local function on touch, and then hit is what the event is going to give us. And that hit is just the part that it hit. That's what it touched. So I need to see if this hit is part of a character. How do I know if it's part of a character? Well, characters have a special object called humanoids inside of them, which contain all the information like the health and the walking speed and stuff like that. And obviously the health is what we're going to want to affect. So, but first I need to see, okay, is it something that has a humanoid in it, or did I just hit like the floor or something like that? Or like a wall, in which case I don't want to do this stuff. So I'm going to say local humanoid equals game, sorry, not game, hit.parent colon, this is the worst function in the world. I don't know why they do this, but find first child, which is a.
Oh my gosh.
Find first child, which is a humanoid is what we want. The reason why we have to do this instead of just hit.parent.humanoid is because the humanoid might not exist, right? And if I try to say hit.parent.humanoid, that'll crash. You can't access something that doesn't exist with the dot notation. But you can use this function, which just does that, except that if it's nothing, it just returns nil instead of crashing.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. What if I had my own version of this, and one of the thing, will this work with capes? Like, say your player had, like, say you're working with a student who has like a decked out player that with capes, and things like that. Will this work with that?
So I did find most of the time, yes. There was a case where I guess it was just really, really weird. And it didn't work because whatever they had on them had subparts. That was what it was hitting. So its parent didn't have the humanoid. So you'd have to check to see if it is a descendant of the character. There's a way to do that. We're not getting into that right now. That can be a problem. It's pretty rare, is what I'm saying. So we say if humanoid, then so we check to see if the humanoid actually exists. And we won't do anything if it doesn't. So then I can say humanoid dot health equals humanoid dot health minus 10. Roblox characters have 100 health by default. And you do have to like do it this way. There's no like minus equals or anything like that. And you gotta type out the whole thing.
There is, believe it or not.
There is. Wait.
Try it. It's crazy.
I've tried it before and it just doesn't work. But
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Well, minus, yeah.
I mean, maybe they've updated. I've been doing this for a while, and all right. So humanoid.health minus equals 10. I will try that out. Let's see. And then we also want to destroy the projectile. Script.parent, which will destroy the projectile and everything inside of it. So we'll get rid of the fire and this script as well. And so this is what I was talking about, where it's like, okay, we could have said, actually, no, we couldn't have. There's no way to access this from the top because we don't know which projectile we're necessarily using. So instead, I start from the script. I say the script is inside the projectile that we care about, and just find the parent and destroy that. And again, we're going to have to connect it to that part being touched. So I'm going to say script.parent dot touched :connect on touch. Yeah, and then one little thing I want to change, because our event script tries to delete the clone in here. So if it does that after it's already destroyed, it's going to cause an error, which actually won't make it doesn't really matter, except that it displays the error. Since these are discrete events, it won't like ruin the game or crash the whole thing. But still, we don't want random errors floating around. So I'm going to say if clone, then clone colon destroy, and then I have to add an end to end the if state. So yeah, this is back in the event script, just so that there's no errors if it tries to destroy something that's already been destroyed. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and, well, I want to test this, right? If I just press play and tried to test it, I wouldn't be able to tell because there's no other players. So let's go ahead and click the test button, and the default here in the clients and servers section has local server and 2 players, which is exactly what I want. If it has something besides this, go ahead and change it, but I think that's probably what should be by default. I'm going to hit start. And so I'm going to be able to control 2 different players here. First is going to open up the server window. That's not really relevant to what I'm doing here. But that, that kind of gives us control, of the server, and lets us see things that maybe players wouldn't be able to see because, you have more of a free camera and stuff like that. Whereas in here, on the clients, you're limited to only do what the player can do, right? So you're limited to the player's camera, and you don't have access to the workspace in the same way. All right, so it's taking me a little bit to load, but yeah, so you can see that I am controlling both players here. It looks like okay, yeah. So now I can actually shoot this projectile, and I can, yeah. So 3 wasn't enough. I end up hitting myself a couple times. You can tell that when I click, I take damage. You don't see it because it disappears immediately. And then if I'm facing the right direction, though, I can like shoot this guy, and I can also control this guy and shoot back. There's a chance I'll hit myself though. Yeah, if you're like facing sideways, I think, yeah, you end up hitting yourself instead because you're just too wide. So we'll need to, we need to make the projectile spawn a little further out.
This gives me a very deep appreciation for like Super Mario Brothers 3D.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it takes to make a fireball. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, the thing is, once you have it made though, you're good to go, right? You can
Right.
use it all over the place. Yeah, and so if I kill this guy, he falls apart and then respawns in a little bit. I can change the settings for how long it takes, but Yeah, so this is how you can test things with multiple players. You can click this test section, and then once you want to leave, you can hit clean up. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and make it spawn a little bit further out than 3. I'm gonna do like 5, I guess. Yeah, so do you guys have any questions about any of this?
For some reason, when I hit the other player, it's not damaging the health. I think I might be. Can you go back to your on touch script?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I copied it.
I probably should give this a name. Whatever. Yeah. So wait, actually, yeah. So hold on. The minus equals does work. So that's a revolution for me. I swear it didn't exist before, but I think this is something that maybe just Roblox had, because I don't think it exists in base Lua. And I think it might be relatively new, like past year or so. Interesting. But it definitely did do it for me.
Yeah, it. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Whatever.
Okay,
maybe I was just wrong the whole time.
This
Who knows?
is really cool though. So this is. I had no idea that you could test multiple players.
Yeah.
This is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's helpful. The other way to do it is a team test, which I'm not going to go into here. Maybe I should actually. I don't know how much time you guys have. I was planning on finishing it here at 8. And we didn't go into GUIs like I said, but I think that's fine personally. But anyways, Noah, how are you?
Okay, it's working now. I forgot to type in the word find in the first child, which is a.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah, you can probably see errors like that in the output section. So make sure that when you're testing, this is for everyone, not you, Noah, but yeah, make sure you have the output open, and that will show you errors if there is an error, right? So like if I don't know, I forgot my quote here. Well, okay, there's a script. I didn't even know about the script analysis here. I did that on accident. But yeah, if I press play now with an error in my script, it's going to stay in the output eventually. Okay, apparently it didn't. Oh, wait, probably because, oh, let's see. Yeah, okay, I have to actually create the fireball for it to do that. Yeah, so it says like, okay, expected identifier when parsing instruction got malformed string. Oh, my string is malformed. Whoops. Yeah, and then this is also where your prints come up. So it's very helpful to have when you're debugging.
So I've got another quick question. So I had a group of Roblox students that wanted to they all wanted to work on the same game. Mm-hmm. And Roblox wanted to charge us 100 Robux. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, to do that. Is there a way around that where they can all work?
I think you may have tried a different. I don't know what you tried for the 100 Robux, but here, let's go ahead and do that right now. Go ahead and do you have TCS Berkeley as a friend, Noah?
Let me.
Why doesn't go ahead and everyone add Roblox TCS Berkeley as a friend?
Okay.
And send your usernames in the chat. Oh, I guess I have to accept. Hold on a second. Let me.
Wait, so how do I add you as a friend?
What's that?
How do I add you as a friend?
I'm not sure exactly. That's why I'm having you add me instead of me adding you.
Oh, let's see. How would I do that?
I think you go to roblox.com and there's a friend section, I think. But all right, so let's see.
You want me to make the request, or should I?
Go ahead and send the request. Yeah, you guys can add me, and I'll just be sitting here refreshing my inbox.
You
please solve this challenge. I am okay.
How do you make a request?
Well, let's see if I can
search the username, and then you can search like in players, and it should pop up.
So it's
this is my username.
Here, I'll just just real quick, I'll give you my username, and then
like I believe it should have popped up. I think I sent a username or a friend.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So I'm not seeing any requests. Maybe I'll just request you guys.
Yeah, it's not popping up for me in players. I might be typing it in wrong.
Let's see.
I have friends here, and then so I'll go to friends.
Okay, so Noah, I sent you a request.
Oh, request.
Oh, cool.
How do I make a request?
So yeah, search for them in players, like Lulu said. All right,
something
so
went
Lulu, I
wrong.
just add you as a friend, and Jimmy, let me find
Okay.
you.
Are
Oops,
you?
I
Are
searched
you?
for you in library rather than.
Are you? Am I? Have I been accepted? I keep getting something's gone wrong when I click accept.
Jimmy, I like your username.
Oh yeah,
Just,
thanks. Wait, how do I like?
There's also a Viet QTN. Is that also you, or is that?
No, that's no.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm just keeping it simple. That's just me. Okay, wait. So I'm like, how do I add you guys? Like,
I should have just added you. So if you look in your messages on the top left, you should get a message or a
Oh yes,
notification
I
in
see it.
messages that says that TCS Berkeley added you as a friend.
So I have.
So
Okay,
it
so I have
looks like.
messages. I only have. In the inbox, I only have a team create. Yeah, so I still don't have like a recent invite from
Do
you
you
guys.
have did you have like a purple hair avatar?
Yes.
Okay, because yeah, I sent the request. This is on Roblox.com. You should see the messages. Like you click the three
Yeah.
bars. Maybe you have to refresh, or something.
Yeah, maybe a refresh. Let's see. Yeah, I still don't see any requests. That's weird.
Huh. That is weird. But regardless, I mean, I can go ahead and show you guys what to do, even without.
Oh,
Jimmy.
Dino Negator sent me a friend request.
Wait,
Is
oh,
that
am I?
you?
Oh, I'm on my account. Whoops, I thought I was on TCS Berkeley. That's me. Yeah, that's actually
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Whoops. Okay. Let me
Okay,
just
let me
actually, rather than redoing this process, let me go ahead and yeah. So that's where
Yeah.
it was wrong. That's why I wasn't seeing your request. All right. Let me go ahead and oh wait.
I got all right, so I added
Yes.
you. All right.
Save. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to re-sign into my account. And I guess I'll just create a new base plate to show you guys this.
Okay.
If it'll actually load in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit click new base plate. I don't know what this is all about. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the team create window here. If I can find team create. All right, publish and enable team create to build this place. All right, I'm going to publish it, which is something you should do anyways with Roblox games. I should have talked about that a little more. You're going to want to publish it privately, like right away, so that Roblox has your game and you don't like lose it on your computer. You can also save it locally, but you know that with kids, especially remotely, that's going to be tough. So always publish it to Roblox. So I'm going to say TCS Berkeley repo. We can all put our ideas in here. I'm going to go ahead and say create. And then close. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on team create here. It reloads the game for me. Now I need to add you guys. So once it figures it out, all right. So I got to go to home game settings permissions, go to permissions, and then I can add all of you guys. So gotta find your usernames. Noah Moon 91. All right. So you can edit, and then
okay.
Lemon Drop.
Cool.
You can edit, and Viet Cutie.
Yep.
You can edit.
All right.
Oops. So yeah, so now that I've done this, if you close out of whatever you have in Roblox, like get to the regular page in Roblox Studio, like I close this, and then if you go into my games, there should be a shared with me section, and you should have access to this game. So if I go back into my games, where did I even put it? Oh.
So we go to
games. Is it?
Roblox.
All right, wait, where did I put it? Recent.
I think it's
all right, whatever.
Oh, never mind.
I found it here regardless. You should also probably see it in messages on Roblox.com. Either or to get to the game.
Okay.
Yeah, you may have to restart studio, but I don't think so. I think you just close this game. It should show up.
Oh
there.
yeah, I got. Oh no, that's good.
But yeah, and then
It's in the shared with me.
yeah, in the share with me section. Yep.
Okay.
Shared with me
So yeah,
section.
so we are both in this game, and we can both edit it. I don't know if you're like loaded in yet, Lulu, but I see you here.
Ooh, I see you. as
Yeah,
well.
and then if I add a part, you can see it and you can change it. And then I can add a script, and we can't edit at the same time. Only one person. Well, depending if I have collaborative editing on. Let's actually look at that. I'm gonna look at the settings. Where are the settings? Oh, game settings, and then options. Is it? Yeah. So make sure if you're doing team create, make sure this enable collaborative editing is off. Collaborative editing refers to, like you can, you have to like commit changes, and, you can merge and stuff to allow people to work on the same script at the same time. That's too complicated for kids. So just turn it off. And what that means is that only one person can mess with a script at a time, right? So if I want to change this script, like Lulu, if you try to like open the script and make changes, you won't be able to, because it says denominator editing.
I do see that.
Yeah, and if you try, it'll just get mad at you. And you won't be able to until I close it. And now that I've closed it, you can edit it. And once you start editing it, I can't edit it until that happens. So Noah and Jimmy, are you guys able to get on?
Yeah, let me exit. I just published what we were doing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I still don't have an invite to it. It's weird.
Let me check here. So if you look at my screen, this is, wait, so here, this is definitely you, right?
Yes, definitely
and you
me.
can edit. Okay.
So
did you restart Roblox Studio?
Let me restart it.
Well, here, and then basically what you're gonna want to look at, in my games, the shared with me section.
Okay.
So it's not here for me because I'm the owner.
Right. So let's see if I can.
Yeah, this is what you want.
Okay. I have to click on my games. That's probably why.
Yeah. So that's So you click on shared with me, and you can open it. And
PC Berkeley repo. Yep. All right.
Yeah. So this way, you got multiple people can work on the same game. This is what you probably should be doing with your students. So you can help debug their code and stuff like that. The one downside is that, if you want to show them something, you can do that. But since it's inside their game, you're changing their game as you do it. You can't have them look and copy. You can, but you just have to delete the script afterwards, and it's just clunkier. But yeah, you want to be using Team Create as much as possible, as well as the fact that, if you want to test something with multiple people, it's easier than a test. You can hit Team Test up at the top. You guys can go ahead and hit Team Test 2, and we'll actually be playing the game together.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you can see, you and I are both in the game. And if Lulu and Jimmy hit the button, then they should.
I just clicked on play.
No, not play. Team Test. So it's in the home section. It's also in the test section, I think. No, it's just the home section. But yeah, you can click Team Test, and this will actually let us load up the game and test it ourselves. I wish I had. Okay. Yeah, I should have put us into the game that we just made, so we could shoot fireballs at each other and see that it works. But
okay, you can just trust me. I go to test and then I click on.
I don't think it's in test actually, just in home. It's the very top right for me. Sometimes the layout can be a little different, but you click on Team Test.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
One thing to watch out for here is that if somebody makes an edit to a script, you got to make sure everyone leaves the Team Test server, and that the edits get applied, and then restart the Team Test server if you want to see the edits to the script in action. That can get a little confusing. But yeah, so we're all here hanging out. You should be able to see me.
Oh, I've been disconnected. Okay, wait. Let me do it again.
Yeah, I can. So yeah, are you in game, Jimmy?
Wait, so I clicked on team test and then I pressed play and then I
Oh, it
got
should be
disconnected.
it should open up another window of Roblox Studio. Maybe you're missing that. Like it should
Oh,
be.
maybe.
there's-
That's what I'm missing.
Yeah, there should be another one somewhere. Like the
Yeah, I
original
see it,
one
I see it.
editing is still here for me, but it opened up a new one for the gameplay.
Okay, there I go. Hey,
So yeah,
I'm
so see,
in.
we're all hanging out in the game, and we can play the game together. There's nothing here to play yet. Where's that ball I had? I think it's rolled off the edge.
I know, it rolled off when I was running after it.
Darn, couldn't save it. But yeah, so yeah, this is something you're gonna want to do with basically all the games. You're gonna want to have them create it, publish it, and then add you to team test. Or you could go the other way. And I usually have them be the owners, but you know, if they're like really young and they can't like figure it out, you can do it and invite them. But I think it's honestly easier to invite than it is to like accept an invite, just the process. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and exit game, and then I leave. You can also leave the traditional way, as if it's like a real Roblox game, by using the leave menu. Yeah, so I'm thinking like maybe this could be a good spot to like, you know, put a collection of actually we should probably do it on the actual TCS Berkeley account. Whoops, but yeah, a collection of like all this, I don't know, Roblox ideas that we have all the coaches on one game would be maybe a good idea.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Like fireballs and obstacles and just a whole amusement part for Roblox.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So that, you know, for inspiration for your students, you can see the code of it and stuff like that.
Oh, that's a super cool idea.
Yeah, maybe I'll create that on the actual TCS Berkeley account and invite you guys to that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, you guys, you know, you guys feel free to use the TCS Berkeley account as well for working with your kids. I actually I don't know who created it. I wasn't the one who created it, but it's just TCS Berkeley with off by a bit as the password.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea where it came from, but I've been using it. So
yeah.
Yeah. So you guys have any questions about anything? Like, you know, we could keep going, but yeah, like I said, I was planning on only doing it for the 1 hour, and we've gone quite a bit over, but it's up to you guys if you want to keep going.
Maybe we can do this next time, or if you're open. But I'd love to do one on animation.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, animation's complicated, and it's not something I'm very good at, honestly. But you know, I can show you the basics and kind of get you started. But yeah, and then I guess controlling the animations might be the hard part, and I'm pretty good at that. It's just making the original animation. Yeah, I don't know. That's a little lengthy to go into right now, but I'm happy to do a future workshop on it.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, I gotta go, but thank you guys. Thank you, Nick.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
Nick.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Cool. Glad you guys liked
All right.
it. All right. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you so much. All right. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Noah.